All right, beautiful. Good evening to those live and to those on the recording. Welcome to another Ascend Foundations webinar. Tonight we're diving into the topic, how to find clarity when everyone has an opinion. This is a great topic. It's something that when I started to finally hear myself and my inner wisdom and inner guidance and intuition again, I was like, well, I'm going to do a whole webinar on it so that everybody can also use these tools. And when I started to discover why it is that we lose that ability and can't hear things sometimes, it was mind blowing. So we're going to dive into that tonight. I'm just going to start sharing screen so we can get into the content. All right. 2 thumbs up if you can see the first slide. Beautiful. Okay, here we go. So tonight we are exploring a topic that I believe is more relevant now more than ever, and it's how to find clarity when everyone has an opinion. So we live in a world where we're constantly surrounded by information. We have access to podcasts, social media, books, experts, influencers, family, friends, colleagues, and complete strangers online, all sharing their thoughts on what we should do, who we should be, where we should go, what we should say, and how we should live our lives. And whilst information can be incredibly valuable, there comes a point where too many opinions can actually create more confusion than clarity. Do we agree on that? Yeah, it can get really noisy, right? So have you ever gone looking for an answer only to end up feeling more uncertain when you started? If so, you're not alone. Tonight isn't about me giving you more opinions. It's about helping you reconnect with your own inner knowing and creating the space to hear yourself again. So during this webinar, we'll explore why clarity feels so difficult to find, what's really getting in the way, and some practical tools that you can use to quiet the noise and reconnect with your own truth. So before we begin, a few housekeeping items. If you're comfortable, pop your cameras on so I can see you and interact with you throughout the session. We're also going to do a short guided exercise later. So please set yourself up somewhere comfortable, quiet, or use headphones if that's easier. And most importantly, be present. So you want to give yourself permission to step away from distractions and honor this time that you've put aside for yourself. So before we dive in, 2 questions to ask yourself. The first is, do you give yourself permission to be open, curious, vulnerable, and have some fun tonight? Perfect. And the second is, do I have your permission to open some doors of opportunity for you at the end of our time together? Amazing. All right, let's begin. So for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Rhiannon. My background is quite diverse, from film and TV to working with children for over 10 years. I've studied mindset and identity work through the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I've also facilitated transformational experiences and events. So just take a moment now for your own self to ask, what made me say yes to being here today? And as you ask yourself that, just set that intention that you're going to get everything you need from tonight's webinar, and all the questions that come up when you first saw this webinar advertised are going to be answered for you tonight. So tonight we're going to explore why clarity feels so hard to find, why we're more confused more than ever, the hidden cost of too many opinions, the science behind hearing yourself again, and practical tools to reconnect with your inner knowing. So just put your hand up if you've ever done any of the following: asked multiple people for advice, changed your mind after hearing someone else's opinion, or felt more confused after scrolling on social media. You are not alone, because most of us have done one, if not all 3 of these. So many of us believe that the answer is not is out there somewhere, right? We can't possibly know. It's got to be in the next book that I'm reading. It's going to be in the next coach that I hire. It's going to be in this next podcast episode that I listen to, or that opinion that someone said or that I overheard. We believe that if we just gather enough information, we'll know what to do. But what if that's the very thing keeping us stuck? because previous generations were influenced by a relatively small number of voices. They had their family, their friends, maybe their teachers when they went to school, and their local community. And today, we carry the opinions of thousands of people in our pockets. Think about it. You open Instagram because you're looking for an answer. Maybe it's about your career, your relationship, your health, your purpose. The first reel tells you, follow your passion. The second one tells you, you need to be realistic. One person says, just quit your job today. And the other one says, oh my gosh, you need to stay where it's safe. So one says, trust your intuition. The other one says, use logic. One says, take the risk. Do it now. And the other one says, you need to wait till you're ready. That's responsible. So none of these people actually know your life when they filmed this reel. Yet somehow they've all been given a seat at the decision-making table. And before you even finished your morning coffee, you carry dozens of opinions that weren't there when you woke up. And the results? We mistake information overload for a lack of clarity. But often the problem isn't that we don't know what to do, it's that we've allowed too many voices to drown out our own. And so before breakfast, you've probably consumed more opinions than your grandparents did in an entire week. And that's why learning to hear yourself has become one of the most important skills of our time. So information isn't the same as clarity. We've confused information with wisdom, knowledge with knowing, consuming with connecting. And sometimes the answer isn't another piece of information. It's creating space to hear yourself again. Because when we're children, trusting ourselves is actually our default setting. We naturally know what we like, what we don't like, what excites us, what feels right, what feels wrong. We don't sit there wondering if we're allowed to enjoy something, and we don't spend hours asking for permission. We simply experience life. But as we grow up, we receive messages from the world around us. Be careful, fit in, don't fall, don't fail, don't make mistakes, don't disappoint people, think before you act, what will everyone else think? And slowly, something shifts. Without realizing it, we begin trusting approval more than ourselves. And we begin trusting external validation more than our own experience. And the cost of that is far greater than most people realize. Because when self-trust decreases, these are often the symptoms that show up. Overthinking. Because when we're trying to think our way to certainty, second guessing because we no longer trust our first instinct, constant reassurance seeking because we're looking outside of ourselves for answers, analysis paralysis because every opinion feels risky, fear of making mistakes because we've learned that getting it wrong means we've failed. And here's what I want you to understand tonight. These aren't signs that something is wrong with you. They're often signs that you've become disconnected from your own inner guidance. The problem isn't that you don't have wisdom. The problem is that you've spent years being taught to trust everyone else's voice before your own. Now, here's what I believe is the hidden problem. Most people think they're struggling because they don't have enough clarity. They think, if I just think about it a little longer, if I do a little more research, if I ask a few more people, if I gather just a little bit more information, I'll finally know what to do. But what if that's not actually the problem? What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you lack clarity? It's just because you've stopped trusting yourself. How many times have you known what to do, but immediately looked to someone else for confirmation? Just have a think about it. You're like, no, I think I'm pretty sure I know what to do here, but I'm just going to check with my friend. I'm just going to ask mum. I'll just check what dad thinks. I'll just make sure that my boss agrees or my coach agrees. But if it was up to me, I'd definitely do it, but I'm just going to check. Or how many times have you felt excited about something and then you talked yourself out of it because someone else didn't understand? So you went to like a friend and you're like, I've got this idea, I'm going to do it. I'm so excited. Like, it's going to be the best. And they're like, my opinion's this. And you go, oh, maybe I'm, maybe I'm wrong. I was really excited about it until you said that. Now maybe I'm wrong. I've done that. When I was in complete distrust with myself, I needed everyone to like, if they react, their like first reaction wasn't, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, not doing it. Not doing it. I needed their excitement. I needed like their excitement to validate my excitement, which is just so bizarre when I think about it now. But that's what mattered most, was that they felt the same way I did, even though we're two completely different people, right? Or how many times have you had a gut feeling and you ignore it because another opinion sounded more logical? You're like, oh, this doesn't feel right for me. And someone's like, do it. It's going to be amazing. And you're like, something's not right. And they're like, don't be this, or don't be scared. And then you don't act on your gut feeling. And then all of a sudden you're shown why you should have acted on your gut feeling. And you're like, man, like I should have trusted myself. I knew. Like it literally happened to me today. I left these keys at home that I didn't think I needed. And then when I got to work, someone's like, have you got those keys? And I was like, I was actually going to bring them today and I didn't. And it's the one day I didn't bring them. And this, before I left, this voice was like, you're going to need those keys today. And I was like, no, I never need those keys. And I needed them today. So I was like, ah, but it's because it's so quiet, right? You have to really, I was in a rush this morning. I had a lot of noise going on and I just missed it. Like I heard it, but it was so like subtle. And we're going to get into that later, why it's quiet, right? The difference between fear being noisy and intuition being quiet. But it was so interesting that when I analyzed it, I was like, how funny that I'm doing the webinar tonight. And that happened this morning. But so the challenge is, it's not that you don't know, you've got that voice, you've got that confirmation. The challenge is that we don't trust what we know. Like the answer is just right there. And we can't just off the bat go, yeah, that makes sense. I'm doing that. And that's what we're going to get to tonight. So I want you to consider something. What if clarity isn't something that you need to find? What if it's something that you need to uncover? Because beneath the opinions, the expectations, beneath the fear of getting it wrong, there's often a quiet knowing already there. The problem is that we've become so busy listening outwardly that we've forgotten how to listen inward. So think about a time when you knew exactly what to do. Just have a think about that now. Not because someone told you, not because someone said this makes logical sense, not because everybody around you approved, but because something inside you simply knew. Now just take a moment to think about that. You knew what to do. What did that feel like? Was it clear? Was it a bit mucky? Was it like instant? And where did you feel it in your body? And what happened when you followed it? And what if that part of you still exists? So if clarity already exists within us, why is it often so difficult to hear? Part of the answer lies in how our brains are wired. Neuroscientists have identified something called the default mode network, or the DMN. The DMN is a network in the brain that becomes active when we're not focused on an external task. It's responsible for a lot of our internal dialogue, the replaying of conversations, the worrying, the planning, the judging, the what ifs, the stories we tell ourselves, the mental chatter that's constantly running in the background. And here's what's interesting. When most people first sit down to meditate, journal, or go for a quiet walk, they expect instant peace. but instead they're met with noise. Suddenly they're thinking about work, that conversation they had yesterday, the email they forgot to send, the decision they're trying to make. And many people assume they're doing it wrong, but they're not. They're simply becoming aware of the noise that was already there. Think of it like a snow globe. When you shake a snow globe and all the particles swirl around in the clouds of water, for the first few minutes, that's exactly what happens in our minds. The thoughts, the opinions, the worries, the expectations, everything is moving around. But if we stay still long enough, the snow begins to settle. And as it settles, we start to see more clearly. The interesting thing is that clarity may not be arriving in that moment. More often, the noise has simply become quiet enough for us to hear what was already there. So there's another concept that researchers call attentional residue. Have you ever noticed that after scrolling social media, responding to messages, checking emails, talking to people, and rushing through your day, that your mind still feels busy? That's because there's a part of your attention that remains attached to those previous tasks, even when you've moved on. Which means when we sit down for 2 minutes and expect instant clarity, we're often still carrying pieces of everything that came before. That is why a 20-minute walk feels different from a 2-minute pause. It's why the best ideas often arrive in the shower, while driving, during meditation, or halfway through a quiet walk. Not because your intuition just suddenly appeared, but because your attention finally had time to settle. Many experienced meditators describe a progression that looks something like this. First, you're thinking your thoughts, then you're observing your thoughts, then a sense of spaciousness begins to emerge. And from that space often comes insight, creativity, perspective, and clarity. So researchers have found that periods of quiet attention can support creative insight more effectively than constantly trying to force an answer. Which means the next time you feel confused, perhaps the answer isn't to gather more information. Perhaps it's to create more space. Because clarity doesn't always come from thinking harder. Sometimes it comes from listening more deeply. Clarity doesn't always come from just going out and receiving more information. It's already there. Everything we need to know is there. We just need the space to hear it and see it and feel it and remind ourselves that that's our default mode. So when it comes to fear versus truth, the clarity we're seeking is rarely arriving at us screaming and going, this is the answer. It's a quiet knowing. So when you are fearful, that is when it's like the alarm bells are going off and everything's really loud and you're like, I feel like I need to do this, but it's coming from fear, right? If you sat down and went, what is the feeling behind this? And it was fear, you would notice how loud that is. But truth is quiet. Like I said before with my keys, it was just this like tiny thought of like, bring your keys today. And I was like, why would I think that? And I questioned it and I didn't. And then look what happened, right? But it's quiet. You know, they say, a lot of people say when you're trying to be healthy, if you have this like screaming thing saying, I want the chocolate, that's like all your bad microbiome chatting to you going, this is what we need, you know? But then the healthy part of you is like, I could do with some watermelon. And you can like just hear it. But you can definitely hear the chocolate yelling at you, right? And of course you're going to want to go to the chocolate because you're like, this is clearly the answer, right? It's so loud. But that's not truth. The truth is quiet. And then fear is going to argue with you. Whereas when you have a truthful thought, you just know. And you don't have to justify that. If it's true for you and you know it, let that be enough. And don't feel like you have to justify your truth to other people. Okay? If fear is arguing with you, that's not the truth. And fear will rush you. It'll go, if we don't do this tonight, this will happen. This is what's going to happen. So we better do this, right? Whereas the truth's always going to remain there. It's a trusting process as well when it comes to our truth. But when it comes to hearing that, there's actually three levels we have to get through. So you have to fight everyone's opinions. Then you have to fight your fear and conditioning. And underneath both of those is your own knowing. But most people spend their lives in the first two layers. So the work is learning how to access the third. And sometimes you can feel so buried in the first two that it almost feels impossible to hear the third. But remember, the truth is more like a whisper over alarm bells and urgency. So we know now that you don't find clarity by adding more noise. It's by creating more space. So these are some of the things that I like to do to hear my own inner truth. And these are some of the things that I started experimenting with, which allowed me to become so versed in this topic, right? And so one of the things is spending time alone. I used to have a huge social calendar. And after a while, I realized I was actually distracting myself and avoiding the difficulty I thought it would be to start my own thing. And booking my calendar with other things made me feel validated that I was too busy to work on my own stuff. And at that same time, as I was spending time with so many people, I was gathering all their opinions. And so I'd get excited about an idea and I'd talk to them about it. But because we're in such a big group, I'd get like 20 different opinions. And then I would go home and go, I don't even really know what I'm doing anymore because so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. And someone said, watch out for this. And someone said I should go for that. But I can't even remember why I wanted to do it and what I was doing in the first place. So I started to limit the people I spent time with when it came to expressing my thoughts and opinions. And I started to share them with myself on walks without stimulation, which is the second point. I would always walk with like a TV show on my phone on Netflix or a podcast or music or whatever it was. But then I just one day went, I'm going to do this in silence. And I did. And I went for an hour's walk in silence. And about 20 minutes in, it's like I just started having a conversation with myself. And all of a sudden, these ideas started popping up. And like I got out my notes and just started writing all this stuff that I was downloading from my intuition and my inner knowing. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I didn't really have to do anything except be quiet. And it was just incredible what happened after the 20 minutes. And so I do that all the time now. And I know if I start hearing this voice going, we should put music on, we should put a TV show on, that's just fear going, I'm not sure what's happening with all these amazing ideas, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be, and you're starting to scare me. And so I have to go, that's okay. I'm going to be quiet and keep having these conversations with myself. So the next one is journaling without editing. I used to feel like I had to journal a lot and write something specific. Like I felt like I had to use the prompts and all of that. Whereas I didn't like it. So I wouldn't journal. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like answering these questions. And I don't like feeling like I have to start the sentence with, I'm so happy and grateful now that, or this and that, and that's fine if you like to do that. But I was trying to make it perfect as opposed to actually doing the thing. So I would never do it because I wanted it to be perfect. So then I just started writing what I was thinking. And I was like, just writing, having a conversation with myself. Now my journaling is just a bunch of stories, but as I'm writing, I'm getting ideas because I'm letting all the noise settle. I'm focusing on that one task, which is the pen to paper, and eventually the clarity that comes as I'm doing that is incredible. So meditating, I mean, same thing, similar to the walking. I now just sometimes meditate in silence, and that's amazing. Like just closing my eyes, and I used to really need guided meditation, but I think after a while I was like, maybe this is distracting me because it's telling me what to meditate about. And so now I meditate in complete silence or just like a really deep, yeah, instrumental music as well. Reducing my input. So I would spend a lot of time on social media, particularly when I was stressed as like a numbing technique, right? So if I was trying to avoid feeling a certain thing, I would start scrolling on Instagram or start watching a video. And when I realized that that was not allowing me, I'd almost get off like a scrolling session and go, I'm exhausted. And now I don't even have time to think of ideas. And so it would just take up my calendar time again as a distraction, but then also the amount of opinions that I was hearing during those scrolling sessions was not helping at all. And so now I really limit the time that I spend on social media and ensure that it's intentional. I'm like, if I'm going on there, I'm going to go to look at something specific and actually absorb that information, as opposed to all these opinions that I didn't even ask for in my algorithm. And I'm going to be intentional about what I obtain in my social media input. And the last one is stop asking everyone. So this was a huge one because it really felt like when you're in people pleaser mode, everyone's opinion's going to matter. So that's another topic that we'll have to talk on at another time. But when you're a people pleaser, it's really hard to then hear someone else's opinion and not want to take that on board and action that for them, because your default mode is going to be to please others. And so it's really tricky when you're still battling that to then not express something, hear their opinion and go, that's lovely, thank you for that. And I'm still going to do this anyway, because then that delves into boundary setting as well. So you want to be clear around when you ask for people's opinion, be prepared that you may handle or not be able to handle what they're going to say. So just be prepared if you're still in that, if it's still lack boundary setting. It's probably just easier if you keep those ideas to yourself. Even though you're excited, it's more powerful and potent if you don't allow all those external opinions in as well. So most people really quit too soon. They will sit in silence for 3 minutes, go for a 5-minute walk, journal for half a page, and then decide, I don't know. I just don't know. But clarity often lives on the other side of that noise, and you could be just on the verge of it and then you've quit. So the question isn't, how do I get clarity? The question is, have I stayed still long enough for the noise to settle? And that's why we struggle to hear ourselves. Not because we don't have answers, but because we rarely give ourselves enough space to hear them. So we're going to do a little guided exercise now. So when you're ready, just sit back in your chair and have a big stretch. Oh, and take a deep breath in. And when you're ready, you can close your eyes. Ah. So I just want you to imagine everyone whose opinions you carry standing around you in a square room. All the walls are blank, but everyone who has an opinion that you carry is standing around you. So your parents, your teachers, your friends, everyone you watch on social media, experts that you look up to, they're all there around you in this room. Now I want you to imagine each one leaving the room, one by one. First, you have the experts that you watch on socials, or maybe leaders that you look up to, coaches. They all just start walking out of the room. Now all your friends slowly start walking out of the room. Your teachers that you had in school, they slowly start walking out of the room. And last is any parents or primary caregivers. They just exit the room and close the door behind them. And now there's no one left in this blank room except for you. as you look around, just ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want? And when you're ready, take a deep breath in and sighing out. Now, when you're ready, open your eyes and just write down what came through when you asked yourself what you want. And notice if once you were in that room by yourself, whether it was instant silence or at first there was some noise. Maybe once you were finally in that room by yourself, you started talking to yourself again, like we said before, about the to-do list or the email you didn't send or the people you should go talk to, or what are they thinking now that they've closed the door and they're on the other side and I'm in here by myself. And if you feel like sharing, pop it in the chat what came through. Love to hear from you, Carrie Ann, but all good if not. Have myself left in the room and the good and bad me telling me what to do. Oh, so interesting. It can become a conversation with yourself, right? It's so interesting when that happens because you're like, who's actually talking? Like, I feel like they're both me, but what part of me, right? Wow. Very interesting. Were their ideas contradicting each other? It was like you're in a battle with yourself. Yeah, yeah, jump off mute.
Yeah, because I guess the I've been held back, but I don't think it's by others, it's by myself. So it's not allowing the fear, that voice that's saying, um, you can't do this, and then the part of me that knows I can do it.
Yeah. Wow. Who felt stronger in the conversation?
Um, I think that it's starting to become the good the the part that knows that I can do it. But
Yes.
for a long time it was the other side, but I wasn't so conscious of it. I didn't really know
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah. And that's the important thing too. The fear can really be diluted down when you have more of an understanding of why it's there. And
Mhm.
once you start naming it and acknowledging it, it doesn't have as much power over you. And you can really go, I actually fully understand why you're there now. And now it just feels like almost not silly, but silly. I know so much information about why you're there now. This is now almost ridiculous that I'm going to even give you attention.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, great. All right, beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
no worries.
All right, so tonight we've really only scratched the surface. So we've explored conditioning, self-trust, noise, clarity, and intuition. And I just want everyone watching this to imagine what becomes possible when you dedicate several hours or even 2 full days to that journey, which is exactly why we, yes, do these webinars, but then also go on to create other opportunities once we have delivered a bunch of information. Some people sit here and go, oh my God, I know now, and now what? Right? And so that's why we've created things like Ascend Ignite and Ascend Summit. And if you haven't heard of these, there are a few different events that we've put together that are really about people taking the next step when once what they've heard is resonating and they're not really sure where to go to next. And so if tonight has resonated with you and you've realized that perhaps you don't have a clarity problem, you might have just been carrying too much noise, then I'd love to invite you to join us for Ascend Ignite. Ascend Ignite is a powerful online experience designed to help you understand what's really been shaping your thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. So we explore your past and the conditioning that's influenced you, your present and the choices available to you right now, and your future and the vision that's waiting to be created. So it's a chance to pause, to reflect, to reconnect, and begin hearing yourself again. So for some people, that's exactly what they need: a circuit breaker, a reset, a moment to step out of the noise and back into yourself. So these are some of the testimonials from our last Ascend Ignite event. It was absolutely so fun. The chat was going crazy. And we also had some beautiful shares at the end. Some people jumped off mute and were just crying and like giving each other so much love and support around what they wanted to do and what that was coming through with them and how clear they were getting on where they were going and sharing their not just what they've gone through, but the wins that they're going to be achieving now that they've had this boost of clarity. And so, yeah, these are some screenshots from our last attendees, which was so exciting. Just it made our hearts so happy to see all these people immersed in the environment that was designed for growth. And so, with any of our events, you always get yours truly. I'm one of the co-founders of the Ascendancy Collective. You also have Sarah Jane, who is absolutely incredible when it comes to, she's actually the mentor who showed me how much action I can take in a short period of time. Like I spent a couple of days with her once and I could not believe the amount of things I'd done. I walked away like I didn't realize I was capable of so much. So I really owe her like radical honesty and radical action taking to her. She is an absolute powerhouse. And then of course we have Karina as well, who is our last founder of the Ascendancy Collective. She's also the founder of the Sophie Effect, which, yeah, she created a successful children's program following the loss of her daughter Sophie. And she is all about resilience and grief work and rebuilding when fear has absolutely struck you down and what steps to take to next to rebuild. So amazing. We're all very different, but that is why we have a really nice, unique blend because you kind of get to go in all different directions with the three of us. So on the screen, yeah, this is the QR code for Ascend Ignite. We're running one more on Saturday, the 11th of July, which is a couple of weeks away. It's a nice morning session. So you get to wake up, make your coffee, start your day with us. And yeah, we've got 10 places left for this one, which is really exciting. And yeah, some transformations require more than information. Some of them require immersion. And that is why we created the Ascend Summit, because understanding something intellectually and experiencing it are two very different things. So you can read about confidence or you can embody it. You can learn about self-trust or you can experience what it feels like to reconnect with it. And that's why we created the Ascender Summit, because it's not just an event, it's an experience, a space where you can step away from the demands, distractions, and expectations of everyday life and spend 2 full days focused on you. So over 2 transformative days, we'll guide you through the same powerful framework, some stuff about the past, where you are now, and where you're going in your future. You'll have all three of us there live all 2 days, helping you understand what's shaped you, reconnect you with who you are, and create a clear vision for what is next. But perhaps the most like powerful part isn't really what happens on stage. It's actually what happens in the room. Being surrounded by people asking similar questions, people navigating similar challenges, people choosing to grow. Because there's something incredibly powerful about realizing that you're not alone. And it's even more powerful witnessing what's possible when you finally give yourself permission to step fully into your life. So if you've enjoyed tonight, Ascend Ignite is the perfect next step. And if you're feeling called to go deeper, we'd absolutely love to welcome you to the Ascend Summit because you don't need another opinion. You need the space to hear your own. So these experiences are designed to help you do just that. They're not another seminar, they're not another motivational weekend. It's a transformative experience designed to help you understand the patterns that have shaped you, reconnect you with who you are, and begin creating a future that is intentionally designed rather than accidentally repeated. So, as I mentioned, tonight we've only just scratched the surface, and at the Ascend Summit, we get to spend 2 full days doing the work. So, our mission is simple to help people stop living from conditioning and start living from choice, to create a space where people feel safe enough to be honest with themselves, supported enough to explore what needs to change, and empowered enough to actually do something about it. Because awareness is powerful, but awareness without action changes nothing. So I know some of you look at this slide and go, can you just tell us what's happening? And trust me, we would love to give you the whole agenda. But if you've been in the event space long enough, you know that some surprises are worth waiting for. But what I can tell you is this: every session has been intentionally designed. Every exercise we go through has a purpose. Every conversation builds on the one before it. You'll laugh, you'll probably cry, you'll be challenged, you'll gain clarity, and you'll leave different from how you arrived. Because, as I said, some surprises are worth keeping. But for those who need to know a little bit about it, it's an experience. You'll be guided by all three of us throughout the weekend. You'll receive workbooks, tools, resources, integration support. Oh my gosh, integration is everything. So that's why we've designed a 30-day post-event integration guide. Because once you walk out of a room, you go back to your normal life, your same job, the same family, same friends, same social circles, same environments. You need that integration support to bring everything in that you've just like absorbed into your existence with consistency and support around that. Because our goal isn't for you to feel leaving motivated. Our goal is for you to leave changed permanently. And so when people ask us what they'll get, the answer is actually quite simple. It's clarity about what's been keeping you stuck, who you are, what needs to change, practical tools on how to do that, not theories, not inspiration, tools that you can actually use when life gets hard. You'll leave with a different relationship to fear, which I think is so incredibly important. If you can look fear in the eyes and walk around it and go, no, thank you, not today, that is a game changer. So you'll have a different relationship to fear, a different relationship to your emotions, and most importantly, a different relationship to yourself. Because we don't want you to leave with a good feeling. Good feelings are great, but we want you to leave with a new direction where you take that step and you don't look back. So if you've been sitting here tonight thinking, I need more of this, then this is our invitation for you. The Ascend Summit is happening on the 2 separate dates on the screen. Tickets are already selling, and we are incredibly excited about the people who are saying yes to this experience. And as a thank you for being part of this event, we've created a special discount code that will give you 10% off your ticket. So you'll see the QR code on screen now. You can take a photo, you can open up the tab for later, and we're more than happy for you to share the discount with friends and family if there's anyone you know that you'd like to bring with you. And yeah, any questions, pop them in the chat. We're so excited. And we also would love to continue our journey with you on school. So this is our exclusive community where you can gain access to myself, Sarah Jane, and Karina. We post like behind the scenes on there. We post the first like updates before we share it on socials to the public. We share exclusive news on there as well. And all our webinar replays are on there as well, free to rewatch. And again, this is the Ascend Ignite as well. Just to wrap up the event, I'll leave that one on screen. But I just want to thank everyone who is here live tonight and then also who has registered to watch the recording. It's been an absolute honor having this space with you. Thank you, Sarah Jane, for being on here as a support person for me. And yeah, we're so excited to see you at our events or in our school community. And I hope that tonight you get to leave with a little more clarity around how you're going to start listening to yourself over others and getting more in tune with who you are and who you've always been. So thank you. I'll see you on the next one or in person. I can't wait.